Good morning, my friends. This is Eddy Turner, and I am speaking to you on the podcast from Faith Community Church, 5-Minute Break podcast. And in the last podcast, we looked at the fact that dreams are just a natural way that God speaks to us. And then we looked at how people in Jesus' day viewed dreams and how we should learn from them. We learned about the first reference of dreams from the Bible and the fact that dreams either directly or indirectly are referenced in about a third of our whole entire Bible. Today, I want to talk to you about some biblical examples and the lessons that they teach. And then I want to give you some more current spiritual dream encounters and their impact, of how they've impacted our lives. And lastly, I want to talk about some biblical dream encounters and how God used them to teach us some of the ways and principles that He uses in dreams. Well, throughout the Bible, it's clear that dreams were one of the most common ways in which God communicated to His people. We talked about that last week. Well, in Matthew 1:20, Joseph was told in a dream that he should continue in his plan to wed Mary, even though she was unexpectedly pregnant and he was not the father. Now, we just accept that, but think about it just a minute. He had a dream that says, you need to marry this girl. And everything in his natural ability was screaming, no. Well, this was clearly a new idea for him. I mean, it was clearly something that was outside the scope of what he would normally think. But the fact that he made a life-changing decision, something that was going to impact his life forever, based on a dream, was not something he struggled with at all. He had a dream. He just accepted that as true. We so seldom do that. Well, later on in Matthew 2:13, it was again through a dream that Joseph took his family to safety in Egypt. And then through another dream in Matthew 2:19, he was told when it was safe to return back. Again, it was about life or death. A dream told him, and he did it without question. Again, we see the influences of dreams in the story of the wise men in Matthew 2:12, and later with Pilate's wife in Matthew 27:19. And as far as we know, she wasn't even a follower of Jesus. But yet she had a dream, and she tried to tell Pilate not to have anything to do with this going on. It seems to almost be taken for granted in Scripture that if someone had a dream, then they were going to listen to it. They were going to believe it. All the way through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, there was a cultural understanding that one should give serious attention to dreams. This is important to understand because in our culture, the opposite seems to be true. Today, if somebody came up to you and said that they were considering making a major decision based on a dream that they had last night, generally, everybody around is going to say, that's ridiculous. I can't believe he's doing that. Has he researched this? Has he looked at this? What would make him think that that's what he needs to do? But in biblical times, that was not the case at all. To them, heeding dreams was natural and it was common. So how do we know that we can use Scripture as a basis for dream interpretation? Just say everything I said is true already. That, yes, God will speak to you. He'll speak to you in a dream. Why do I think that we can use Scripture to interpret these dreams? Well, Paul wrote in 2 Timothy 3:16 and 17 that all Scripture is inspired by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, for training in righteousness, so that the people of God may complete and be equipped for every good work. So, if all teaching, if all Scripture is inspired by God, and dreams are inspired by God, then you should be able to use dreams. You should be able to use Scripture to interpret the dreams. In our secular world, everybody's been taught to believe the teaching of Carl Jung and all the great psychologists that the world calls great people that assume that all of our dreams are really just about our subconscious speaking to us. They never say that it's from an outside source. They never say that it's God speaking to us. They think it's just you yourself trying to assimilate what happened to you that day. But I believe that dreams are a God-created method of processing information based on Scripture that lets us be able to see that not all dreams are really just our subconscious alone. So what are some of the spiritual lessons that we can learn from looking at biblical dreams? Well, the first dream, as we spoke last week in Genesis 20 with Abimelech, we can see that even people who are not known as followers of God can have dreams. That may not seem weird to you, but it might. It's not just Christians who dream. It's everybody. They can actually have dreams that they know and they respond to and don't even know who gave it to them. Later in Genesis 37, we found another precedent. These are the dreams that Joseph had about ruling over his family. This is the first time we see a response to what we call a metaphoric dream. This means that events in dreams are a representation of the real events to occur. They require interpretation in order to understand them. You remember, this is a dream where he was talking about the sheaves standing up and bowing down, and about the sun and the moon and all bowing down. It's interesting to note that when he talked to his father and told him the dream, he didn't have any problem interpreting it just like that. Just like that. He knew what he was talking about. He knew that these were metaphors that meant a different thing. It meant that Joseph was the sun, and it meant that his mother, the moon, and him were going to bow down to Joseph. It's interesting also to note that although Joseph's brothers, they weren't happy about his dreams. They threw him in a ditch and sold him and were just really ugly to him, told his daddy he died. They never contradicted that his dream may have been from God. They never doubted that his dream might have been true. Joseph set another precedent a few chapters later in Genesis 40 when he interpreted the dreams of the butler and the baker in prison. Do y'all remember that? When the butler and baker was in the prison and Joseph interpreted their dream? He is the first person in the Bible that we see that interpreted somebody else's dream in a way that enabled them to be able to understand what was it that God's telling them. Up to this point in time, if you had a dream, nowhere in the Bible did it say that anybody else told you what that dream meant. That was the first time that a dream was interpreted for somebody else. This is the first scriptural example where we see people relying on somebody else to tell them what is it that their dream meant. In Genesis 41, we see Joseph being brought in to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. Well, this is the first time we see a person interpreting dreams for someone in power and authority, simply because they're in power and authority. This suggests that there will be prophets among us, or there will be people that have dreams, that there'll be times when they are for the leaders and that they need to be interpreted so our leaders can make good decisions. Okay, I understand. But are there any current examples of dreams that can help us today? Is there anybody out there that knows the name Elias Howe, Howe? Elias Howe dreamed that he was being attacked by a bunch of savages using spears. It was in this dream that God revealed to him how to design and how to make a sewing machine. He readily said that it was in a dream that gave him the ability to make a sewing machine. That was very, very important in the day that it was happening. Did you ever hear of Abraham Lincoln? Did you know that Abraham Lincoln had a dream in his first term as president that revealed that he would be killed near the end of his second presidency? Did you know that he also had a recurring dream that would come to him every time an important historical event would take place? You don't see that in the books that they're teaching us, but that's a fact. In my business, in the medical world, have any of you ever heard of Otto Loewi, Loewi? He was a famous physiologist, and he says that the concept of neurotransmitters, which is the basis of what most medicines, most drugs work on, it's on neurotransmitters in your body that are going to activate certain systems in your body. He said all of that came to him in a dream. In fact, that's what revolutionized modern medicine and won him the Nobel Prize. Let's put it to somebody you will know. Anybody ever heard of Jack Nicklaus? Did you know that Jack Nicklaus says that he discovered his famous golf swing in a dream in 1964? If you're not an athletic fan, let's think about, have you ever heard of the Beatles? Anybody like music? Did you know that Paul McCartney said that the song Yesterday came to him in a dream in 1965? And so that's why the song was made? Or let's just think about who we are. I mean, what's our makeup? What's our DNA? The people that actually figured out that it was the double helix configuration that DNA has, and that's what gave us the ability to do the genomes and to understand DNA now. Did you know that they say it came to them through a dream? Did you know that? Even Einstein remarked that major parts of his theory of relativity was revealed to him through dreams. Clearly, dreams have had a significant influence in the lives and stories of history. So why don't we value dreams as much as we should? Dreams bypass the resistance of our soul. What is our soul made of? Mind, will, and emotion, right? Well, when we go to sleep, our mind we're not in control of it. It's doing what it does. Our will, we're not sitting there trying to say, I'm going to dream about this, I'm going to dream about that. It bypasses all of that. Then what is our resistance to the influence of dreams? Why do we think that I'm not going to pay any attention to this? Well, there's several of them. I want to give you a few. First one is the dream may be too difficult to believe. A lot of times we say, I had this dream last night and I don't understand it, so I ain't going to pay any attention to it. I don't believe it. I'll just dismiss that. We never tried to delve into it and see what it could mean. We just said, I don't understand it. I'm not going to believe it. The second way is it may be different than our opinion on a topic. I just don't believe it's okay not to do this. Not to do this is just an old school way of viewing things. For instance, if there's a way that you could make money that everybody knows you could, but nobody will because of their morals, and you say, and God gives you a dream, says, don't do it, don't do that, don't do that. But you say, I ain't going to believe that. That's just old school. I'm going to do it because I can make money doing that. I think maybe we ought to listen. And so one of the ways we don't believe dreams is we don't want to believe it. It don't agree with us. Another way is it may contradict our training. I can remember coming along when in my early years, they used to tell us that it wasn't right for a woman to be teaching in church. Oh, she could teach the children, but she couldn't be in the pulpit or anything like that. Now, I have a story that I can tell you, I will one of these days, exactly how God showed me when I asked him, exactly, immediately showed me, and I've never had a doubt about that since. But in the meantime, a lot of people don't believe that women can be taught in church. If they have a dream of a woman standing up, teaching them a biblical principle or concept, they won't pay any attention to it because they don't believe they're supposed to. Sometimes it seems like it's just impossible to fulfill. Oh, you want it. You want it desperately in your life. God's showing you where he sees you, where he wants to take you, what he is wanting to be in your life. And you say, oh, that's past anything I could ever think about. That's just can't be God's plan for me. That's just my wishful thinking, so I'm just going to dismiss it. I enjoyed it. It was a great dream, but I'm not going to pay any attention to that. And the last one I want to say is it may not be what you want to happen. Sometimes God gives you a dream and he's trying to warn you, and he's saying, don't do that. That's not a good idea. That's not good for you. And you're saying, no, I don't want this correction. I want to enjoy my time with this date and with these friends or whatever it is that you're doing that you're not supposed to be doing. And God's trying to lead you on a different path, but you're saying, I'm not going to pay any attention to that. I'm going to just do kind of what I want to do. It's just a dream. Sometimes I think we need to remember that it's the glory of God to conceal a matter, but it's the glory of kings to search that matter out. Besides, what do we really want God to make revelations to us straightforward and plain? Do we want God to just tell us point blank, plainly, exactly what he says and exactly what he wants and exactly how he wants it? Are you sure that's what you want? You see, there's a kingdom principle called clarity versus cost. Clarity versus cost. The greater the clarity, the greater the cost for disobedience. If God tells you point blank, I want you to go up to that church on Sunday, stand up and tell the preacher you want to preach this message right here, and you don't do it, you would be held accountable. Next time, we want to get into real-life examples of dreams that God uses. Until then, just think on these things, and when a dream comes, at least have the possibility in your mind that this might be from God. It might be important. I might need to try to search this out. Until then, my friends, y'all have a great day. We'll continue this in the next podcast.